talking about the idea that this video is really a little wider, probably going to be a little wider than the subject that I've chosen for it, which is Christianity and the Constitution. It is true that that's sort of the starting place, I think, for American law, where law is concerned, and therefore how it relates, how the Constitution relates to Christianity is an important thing. You'll note that I put Christianity first and the Constitution last because that's how things fall in my mind. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Monday, the 26th of July of 2021. Thank you for everyone who's here on Rumble on the podcast on YouTube. The subject again is Christianity and the Constitution. I'm going to go ahead and very quickly read through my notes, and then we're going to kind of get on with talking about it. Are Christians bound by U.S. laws? I would argue they're not. Does that sound bad? Funnily, it's really not only not horrible, but actually pretty good. Although I believe I should follow earthly law where higher law doesn't trump it, because those higher strictures are actually more stringent, you should ostensibly end up with folks who are more constrained if they follow those divine bindings than earthly ones. Overall, I should acknowledge that the Constitution is not counter to how I believe myself to be bound to behave as a Christian. If it were, though, you should know, or you should be entirely aware, I'm not bound to it. If the way I was called to act as a believer were in contradiction to existing law, and I should say any type, but I say here whether the Constitution or any other, so that kind of covers that, I would definitely count it possible for me to suffer the consequences as a result of breach of such law. You should understand, though, my conscience would be clear if I could honestly say I felt obliged to break those laws. Simply put, doing good or right is not a matter of living earthly ordinances. And that's the end of my little notes. And so I'm going to get on talking about this in other ways. I'm a Christian. And the primary thing that I deal with in my struggle for rectitude, for correctness, for doing right, for righteousness, is that Christianity. It is not my adherence to earthly laws. There are literally earthly laws that, in my opinion, are immoral. They exist, and to be quite frank, it's very possible I break them on an ongoing basis. I'm not telling you I do because I don't know of any that that's true for. Most of the time, the laws that are presented are sufficiently just to make it so that you will find that I am at least adhering to those laws, sometimes doing more than they require. But the point is that my adherence to those laws is dependent on my adherence in terms of what I believe as a Christian. I try to do what I'm supposed to do there, and those laws typically do not trump that higher position. Now, to be fair, in many instances, the higher position doesn't, quote, trump those laws either, and that includes the Constitution, and this is a very important consideration. I say in my notes that in general I find that the things that are requested or required in the Constitution do not disagree with what I believe as a Christian. They just don't. I believe that the First Amendment is a totally reasonable thing. I believe that letting people speak their mind is a totally reasonable thing, and I believe that Christians should expect and allow people to do that, recognizing that in so doing they will know the heart of the people with whom they are dealing on an ongoing basis. If that's a problem for you, I get it. And I will tell you that there are ways in which I would rather people did not use language, for example. People use the word cursing incorrectly, but there are certain words that are bad words to use. And I've been known to use some of those words. And I don't think that those are words that should be used. There are modes of speech that do things like cause people to be incited to bad action. And I don't really support those ways of doing things either. Right? I don't support them. I don't consider them to be good. That being said, knowing that people are acting in those ways are saying those things helps you to know what's going on in the minds and hearts of the people in question. So in that way, if nothing else, I think it's beneficial to be aware what people are thinking, and the way that you're going to find that out is in terms of what they're saying. Well, obviously, the Constitution is a whole lot more than the First Amendment. In fact, if you ask the people who wrote the Constitution, they would tell you that they didn't even like the Bill of Rights, many of them. Some did, and it came into existence because of a perceived need for the Bill of Rights. But there were a number of things that happened, one of them saying, don't assume that these rights are the only ones that should be considered natural rights for a given individual, and another being, these are the things, people pointing out that the Bill of Rights is about what the government may not do, not what people may do. It's a restriction on the government, not a allowance to the people. They are restrictions, if you will. The point is, each one of those is a restriction, right, on the government. It's not an allowance to the people. It's not a right to the people. It's something telling the government, you can't mess with this. But here's the thing. As a Christian, really, the only reason that matters is that the Constitution, Bill of Rights and all the other amendments included, generally speaking, supports and agrees with those things I support as a Christian, not as an American. That's a reality. From my perspective as a Christian, I understand when somebody who's a part of a given religion says that the first thing that I am bound to do is honor the things that my belief set as a believer in some set of religious beliefs, honor those things and not honor the things that a country says. Now, in general, if you can't honor the things that the country says, you've got a problem. There's a problem there, and you need to know that. But the point is, my ability to honor the things that the Constitution says, and generally the things that law says, actually comes out of my intent to honor the things that my Christian belief informs me are correct. That's where that comes from. I don't do the Christian belief set as a result of a support of the Constitution. I support the Constitution largely as a result of my Christian belief set. That's how that works. So if you happen to think that the way that works is, oh yeah, he supports the Constitution and that's the primary or important thing to him, you need to be totally aware. No, that is not correct. The primary and important thing to me is my Christian beliefs, my beliefs as a follower of Christ, and as much as I manage to do that. And quite frankly, my beliefs as a failure to follow Christ, in as much as Christ manages or shows me what I ought to be. So you need to understand that when people say, oh, he's a staunch supporter of the Constitution, that's only true because the Constitution largely supports what I believe as a Christian. And I would not be a supporter of the Constitution if that were not the case. I'm not a supporter of the Constitution. I wouldn't be a supporter of the Constitution if the Constitution was amended to do things that I considered to be outside of my liberty, if you will, as a Christian. I wouldn't do that. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't support the Constitution in those circumstances. And the thing you need to understand is that that's the case. This is what you need to recognize. As a Christian, what comes first for me is Christianity. I imagine if you're a Jew, what should come first for you is Judaism. I imagine that if you're a Muslim, even whether or not I agree with you is beside the point. The thing that must come first for you is Islam. Okay? And I'm not expecting anything else. If you're a Mormon, Mormonism probably comes first for you. If you're a Catholic, Catholicism probably comes first. Lutheranism, all of these. The point is, the thing that comes first are the things that align with your religious beliefs, not with the Constitution. So then the question is, how does the Constitution line up with your religious beliefs? And in my case, it seems to work out pretty well. All right, I need to go ahead and wrap this up now, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. This is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Monday, the 26th of July of 2021. That means tomorrow will be Tuesday, the 27th of July of 2021. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, and on YouTube. Remember that Rumble is my preferred platform. I know that I'm unaware of any censorship that's going on there, and that really pleases me. Remember that you can give me a positive rumble on Rumble and a negative rumble if you want to do that or feel it necessary. Remember that you can like or dislike, that is thumbs up or thumbs down, my content on YouTube if you choose to do that, and you can comment on either of those platforms. Today's subject has been Christianity and the Constitution, and tomorrow we're going to talk about the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, and constitutionality, and what the sort of job, in my view, of the Supreme Court ought to be. Now, I'm not sure, and I'll probably end up saying this in the piece, what it is at this point in time. I may do a little research to look at that and see what I think about that. But that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. I hope you're having a good day today. This is the start of the work week for me, and I'm sure it is for lots of folks as well. I hope that your work week is starting off well and things are going good for you, and hopefully we will see you again on Tuesday's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Monday, July 26th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that, and you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.